In this video, I'm going to show you some of the problems we had with our new to us 23-foot Airstream Safari before we took it on its maiden voyage up to Shenandoah National Park. Some of the things we identified after its second voyage, our 5,400 mile road trip out to western Utah and Arizona and back. And please, if you have anything to share, feel free to comment. Also, feel free to hit like and subscribe. So this is our 2007 23-foot Airstream Safari, 75th anniversary year special edition. It says most of that doesn't mean a significant amount. What it does mean is that instead of having the white on the inside here, you can see we've got the aluminum on the inside. And as we purchased this, it was a 2007, and it had a few little things we had to address. I'm going to go over those with you. And then what I'm really going to talk about is, after I got things addressed to what I thought, I took this actually with my dad and my father-in-law on a what ended up being a 5,400 mile trip across the country and back to Arizona, southern Utah, New Mexico. And we're going to see what kind of things and problems we ran into and what else we had to address with that. So let's go ahead and first get started with the things we had to address. Well, number one were these cabinets. Now, my wife and I looked online, and I know people have had some different issues with the cabinets. I've come up with a few things that helped me with mine here. I think some of these are things we borrowed from people. Some of these are things we came up with ourselves. First off, it was very difficult to get the hardware, and we needed new hardware for a couple of these hinges on these doors. And the one down here, if you look, it's kind of a gapped piece of hardware, and I had to kind of rig it to match up here. And then to keep these from loosening in the future, what I did was I took some zip ties, and I've secured them around the hinges then with some zip ties as well, just to give them a little bit more sturdiness, to make them just a little bit more sturdy. So these two doors here, that one and this one, we went ahead and adjusted and made those a little bit more sturdy. Now they work better, they stay closed. I can tell you I had this, total of, like I said, 5,400 miles. My wife and I also took it on a 1,000-mile trip for our maiden voyage, and those doors have stayed shut and worked really well. We haven't had any issue with that. The other thing I did relative to doors was these closet doors. They have this little lock piece right here, and I went ahead and added this other secure piece up here just to give them a little bit more sturdiness, so that when you're going down the road or you're hitting any area that's a little bit bumpy, you can see we pretty well cleared this out after our last visit, our last trip. I wanted to give it a little more security. These have worked pretty well. It's made these doors stick just a little bit better and just a little bit more difficult to open. Another change I made after my wife and I's first voyage was I took out the pump that was in here. The pump seemed to quit on us. I don't know if it was sucking air or not. It seems to work. I keep it around as a spare. And then I also added this accumulator that you can see right here. With the accumulator now and that pump there, the water flow is perfect out of this thing, and we can take this off grid, and it's all stays secured in place, hasn't loosened up. It's been, like I said, 5,400 mile trip and plenty of bumps along the way, and this is all done great. So changing that water pump out, that was the biggest thing that we noticed from our first things we addressed was the threshold right here and the trim pieces right here. Now if we look at this, these are the original trim pieces that were in here, this thinner piece. We added this thicker piece too. I'm assuming that there was some amount of water damage that was done over time that caused this floor to retract a little bit. I don't know what it was exactly. It does not leak anywhere, but in any event, there was some sort of damage that caused this vinyl flooring to contract just a little bit, so this strip wasn't holding everything down. We replaced it, took that out, I put this strip down, and then I decided, just for added security, I would add the other strip back on top of it as well. And then we addressed this threshold right here, and my wife ordered this online. I actually had somebody make this for us, and so we added this threshold to it. Again, these are things that we addressed before our maiden voyage, and then we'll talk about things after, maiden voyage to long trip out west and what all we found with that. I've had some people ask me about this camera. I added this camera myself. This camera is just stuck with VHB tape right there. I didn't put any new holes into my Airstream there. You can see how that sort of comes together, all of it. if we look at it, you can see that what I've got is I ran the wire up from right here in my illumination light, ran it up and in the back here, and never had to make a new hole in there. So been very pleased with how that's come together and why this camera has stayed mounted. It's been through storms, it's been through thousands and thousands of miles of travel now, and it's just stuck there really, really well. No new holes in the Airstream. It's hard to see here, but the stop valve on the fresh water drain, which is of course right next to the wheels here, had been corroded over the years. It was plastic, and I did a video, I'll link that, on what I did to change that out on this tank, on this 23-foot 2007 Airstream. Okay, so for this 2007, on our first trip, what happened and what did I have to address? Well, the major thing was at the tail end of the trip, the heater went out. And when the heater went out, I didn't exactly know what the problem was there, but it boils down to one of a few things. Oh, it can be the control board that's right behind here, and that's one of the more common things to go out in these. And in both my Lances, I had issues with the control board, one for the hot water heater and one for the furnace, and addressed both of those with changing out a new control board, and that did fix the problem. Most of the time, however, it's not the control board. Most of the time, it's going to either be the thermostat that's back in that direction, right there, right at the top of where my finger is, the igniter, which is right where my finger is now, or on this side over here on the wall of this furnace is the sail switch. So one of those three things, or the thing it was in this case, it was the burner, which sits just underneath. Let's see if I can get that in. There's the igniter. It sits just underneath the igniter down there. And of course you have to take all this stuff out to get access to it, which isn't a huge deal. But what happened was that burner, there were actually some bugs in there, and that burner had cooked the bugs so that it was covering the burner so that when the igniter was going, it was never hitting the gas, and then after 3 tries it shuts off. So fortunately it wasn't too cold when we were camping, and typically we do travel with a space heater. In the future I will probably do that just in case, but I went ahead and bought a new burner, changed it out, saw what the problem was, saved my old burner because it's not in terrible shape. And then I also went ahead and bought all the other parts it might be. So I have a new igniter, I have a new thermostat, and I also have a new sail switch, and I'll travel with all those things. I probably will pick up a new circuit board or a new control board too. Control boards usually run about $120 to $150, but I'll probably pick one up to travel with too, just because you don't want that to ruin a vacation. The other thing that happened actually happened before I left on the trip, which is a pretty common thing, and you can find videos how to repair these hinges on your freezer door. And what had happened is 2 of these sleeves had broken. Now I had ordered replacement sleeves from, I think it's iFixie-Fix, and they had actually busted 2 before we ever left. They replaced great, so I'm going back to the originals, but then when I'm going back to the originals, the actual door itself, right here, this female end on the door, right there, see if I can bring that into focus, you can see the little line of glue. Let me show you here. You can see the little line of glue where this little piece broke. So again, iFixie-Fix makes a piece to replace that. I'm going to give them a try again, and I've ordered a piece to put in there, see if we can't get that repaired. But right now I'm going to get this put back in to see how that door does. Fixed. I'm going to show you. I'm going to open it, let it go, open it, let it go. Seems to work really nice. Now I didn't show you how I did that because I don't have a tripod with me today, but it's a little bit tricky. There is a great video it's called RV Tech Tips. RV Tech Tips, not trips, RV Tech Tips, and they'll show you how to do that. He's got a really nice explanation on how to do that. But what I don't trust is that piece down there that I glued. So I've ordered a replacement piece. He'll show you that replacement piece as well. But yeah, that should work. Now I did this once before, and I ordered the parts from iFixie-Fix, but that housing for this piece broke right here too. So I went back to the original plastic piece. His is nylon, this is plastic. Theoretically his nylon should last longer, but I'm going to go ahead and give his nylon piece a try if I need it. But now that's fixed. That's it. That's all the problems that we had with this. And again, we had this, we were out west, we were at Mesa Verde, and it downpoured one night, and I mean downpoured, and then The next night, we were actually in Monument Valley and it downpoured there. I've been there several times. It's the first time I've ever been there where it downpoured, but we got a downpour in Monument Valley as well. No leaks in this thing. My wife and I have had it camping in Virginia. Again, downpour in Virginia up by Shenandoah National Park. No leaks in it. Very pleased with that. That's all I had from a problem standpoint. Everything else worked great. Oh, wait, one more thing. Okay, one more thing. I lied to you. On our way back when we were parked, I noticed I had just a slight drip coming from what seemed to be a leaky seal on the pull-out valve for the black water tank. I ordered a new one of those when we got back, replaced that. That seems to work fine now as well. So no real issue there. So my Airstream's back in storage now, doing a little bit of fixing up on it. Got to give it a bath and do a couple other things. But as far as towing the Airstream versus towing the box trailers, I thought we should talk about that. So I'm going to go ahead and look at all the MPGs. It looks to me like I averaged about 1 mile to 1.5 miles better towing the Airstream. The interesting thing with towing the Airstream was into the wind, I did quite a bit better. Into the wind, I probably did about 20% better on my way out west. So out west, I'm typically heading into the wind, and I was really impressed. On the way back, I didn't do quite as well as I usually do, or maybe I did not quite as well as I expected given how well I did going out. But here's the thing about that. I'm also, when I don't have a sail going into the wind, I also don't have a sail going with the wind. So I wasn't getting pushed from behind with the wind as much with this Airstream as I was with my boxier Lance travel trailers. So we didn't do quite as well as I would have liked. We did a little bit better, I think, than the Lance would have done coming west to east, but going east to west, we did quite a bit better with the Airstream. Kind of interesting that it works out that way.